April 29th, 1945. Dawn over the rail siding at Augsburg, southern Germany. A cold spring mist clings to the pine forests and drifts across the tracks like breath from a dying animal. The air smells of wet iron, coal smoke, and something sweeter, something impossible. A long American supply train, olive-drab cars still bearing the chalked names of distant ports, New Orleans, Norfolk, San Francisco, has been shunted into the station under heavy guard. From the open doors of refrigerated boxcars spills a scent or has not been smelled in the Reich for 6 years. Real coffee, thick and dark, mingled with the warm, yeasty perfume of fresh white bread and the fatty richness of tinned Virginia ham. On the platform 3 stand 43 women of the SS Helferinnen Corps, the female auxiliaries of the SS. Their gray-green uniforms are immaculate, their hair twisted into the severe knots demanded by regulation. They have been marched here from the signal school at Obermenzing, told only that they are to assist with inventory. Their commander, Hauptsturmführer Ernst Kalweit, reads the order aloud in a voice stripped of emotion. From this morning forward, all prisoners of war and all civilian personnel in American custody will receive the identical rations issued to United States Army enlisted men, no exceptions. The women stare at the crates being unloaded. Cases of Hershey bars slide down wooden ramps. Cartons of Camel and Lucky Strike cigarettes follow. Tins of peaches and heavy syrup glisten in the pale light. One girl, barely 19, her cheekbones sharp from years of turnip winters, presses a gloved hand to her mouth as though to hold back a sound she does not yet understand. This moment matters because it is the first time in the history of the Third Reich that the ideology of racial supremacy is forced to confront the material reality of its defeat, not on a battlefield, but at a breakfast table. For 12 years, the propaganda of the regime had promised the German Volk a 1,000-year empire built on iron will and sacrificial purity. Bread cards, ersatz coffee made from acorns, margarine colored with carrot dye. These were worn as badges of honor, proof that the master race could endure what lesser peoples could not. The American soldier, by contrast, had been caricatured as a soft, jazz-loving mongrel, corrupted by Jewish capital and Negro music, incapable of the austere virtues that forged the Wehrmacht. Yet here, in the chill April morning, the proof arrives in the form of abundance so casual it feels obscene. Each GI ration box contains 4,200 calories, more than most German civilians have seen in a week since 1943. Real butter, real eggs, powdered but unmistakable. Peanut butter, that strange, sticky luxury no European tongue had tasted before the war. And coffee, my God, the coffee, roasted within the month in New Jersey, shipped across an ocean the Kriegsmarine could no longer contest, and now poured steaming into tin cups by laughing American MPs who seem embarrassed by the plenty they carry as naturally as their carbines. The contrast is merciless. These same Helferinnen had spent years transmitting the coded orders that sent millions to the camps. They had filed the reports on slave labor output with mechanical precision. They had believed, or forced themselves to believe, that their hunger was noble, that the skeletal prisoners they saw through barbed wire were merely receiving the diet appropriate to Untermenschen. Now, the Americans, with democratic carelessness, place the identical tray in front of Oberaufseherin and American private alike. Spam, green beans almondine, pineapple chunks, chocolate bars bearing the friendly Hershey logo. Everything the same. The hierarchy of blood and soil dissolves in the steam rising from 1,000 identical meals. Historical records preserved in the U.S. 7th Army's G5 files tell the rest with clinical detachment. On April 30th, the camp commander at Dachau Annex Augsburg-Mühlhausen reported that 41 of 43 female SS auxiliaries wept openly when the first hot meal was served. 2 refused to eat and were removed under guard. The others sat in stunned silence, forks trembling. One woman, identified only as Helferin IK, was overheard whispering, "They feed their prisoners better than our Führer fed us." Another, a former teleprinter operator from Berlin, wrote in a diary later captured by CIC agents, "Today I understood that Nazi socialism was a lie told by starving men to keep other men starving. The taste of real butter destroyed 12 years of faith in 10 minutes." The transformation was immediate and irreversible. In the weeks that followed, hundreds of these women, once the proud embodiment of the Reich's clerical backbone, requested political re-education courses, volunteered to testify against their former superiors, even asked to emigrate to the United States. The sight of American plenty acted like acid on the photographic plate of their ideology, developing in stark negative every promise the regime had failed to keep. A nation that could feed its enemies so generously, they realized, could not be the decadent colossus of Goebbels' cartoons. A democracy that wasted nothing yet produced everything in careless profusion could not be governed by the weak. The revelation was not intellectual, it was visceral, tasted on the tongue, smelled in the steam of real coffee, felt in the unaccustomed weight of a full stomach. Throughout that spring and summer, the long summer of capitulation, one object returned again and again in the testimonies of defeated Germans, soldiers and civilians alike. The simple Hershey's tropical chocolate bar. Wrapped in khaki foil, designed to withstand jungle heat, it became the recurring symbol of a new world order. Children chased jeeps for it, soldiers traded Lugers for it, and in the holding camps, former SS auxiliaries clutched the bars like rosaries, some licking the last smears of cocoa from the wrapper as though trying to extract the last drops of a communion they had never known they craved. The chocolate, sweet, slightly gritty, tasting faintly of vanilla and milk from cows that had never heard an air raid siren, stood for everything the Reich could not produce: surplus, sweetness shared without ration cards, the casual generosity of a nation that believed hunger was a problem to be solved, not a virtue to be endured. Years later, in the quiet suburbs of Minneapolis or the orchards of Oregon, some of those same women, now naturalized citizens with new names and softened accents, would unwrap a Hershey bar for their American-born children and pause, the scent carrying them back to that April morning when the smell of coffee first mingled with the smell of surrender. They had expected to despise the victors. Instead, they tasted in a single mouthful of chocolate and real bread the possibility of a life without hunger as a moral duty. And so the war ended not with the thunder of artillery, but with the quiet opening of tin cans, the soft tear of foil, and the first honest tears of women who had been taught that pity was weakness. In that small rail siding at Augsburg, amid the drifting mist and the impossible aroma of plenty, the 1,000-year Reich quietly starved to death, defeated not by bombs alone, but by the humbling democratic miracle of enough for everyone. The taste of freedom, it turned out, was butter melting on warm white bread, and once that flavor touched the tongue, no ideology on earth could make a person spit it out.